Hello, good evening. Welcome to the Childcare Business Success Show. This is Julie Barkus, and I am absolutely thrilled to be here with you this evening. We got a fantastic show lined up for you. Since so many of you have been asking me about buying and selling and expanding, I thought it would be fantastic to do a show this evening all about that topic. So if you have questions, please make sure you write them below. And our special guest, Jay Whitney, has also listed out some questions for you that we put in the description. So if you see some of those questions that you would really love to have answered, make sure you put those in the comments and we'll get to those in the order in which they appear, hopefully. And Loretta, our Chief of Happiness, is going to be helping us along. So I'm going to take a moment and welcome Loretta into our studio. And I hope everybody's having a good kickoff to their week. Hey, Loretta.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I am doing pretty well. I don't know where the time went today, but I was productive in wonderful ways. So
Oh,
it's
that
an
is
awesome Monday.
that is awesome. So, you're a very productive person. What do you feel is your biggest productivity tip that you incorporate into your daily routine?
I think just for me, and it's different for different people, but for me, I need to have a mental or a written list of the things I need to accomplish.
Yeah.
And I may check one off and add two, but that's okay. But it's just a running list of the things that I need to accomplish. I'm a big fan of taking giant pieces of paper and tacking them on my office wall, and I use colorful markers and make things pretty, but that way I'm keeping the different categories of things that I need to accomplish right there in front of me. And sometimes I'll look up and go, oh, I forgot to mark that off. And then I can get my pretty color out and put a big check mark.
Right. And one thing that I think is really interesting that I find when we're studying performance and productivity in childcare programs is that our owners really love, and we teach the concepts of mind maps or really doing
Mm-hmm.
brain dumps. And our owners love that. But our directors don't so much love the process of mind mapping. They love the process of making lists and checking things off. So have you tried mind mapping, and do you enjoy that as much as list making, or do you
I
just like the
I
list
do.
making?
Because
Yeah.
I'm a teacher too, so I can do both. When it's something I have to accomplish, I much prefer the lists. But if it's something I'm dreaming and setting goals for, then that stream of consciousness, just getting every thought that I
Ooh.
have down on paper and creating little pictures and maps, I love that as well. So it just depends, I think, on what my ultimate goal is as to the technique I choose to use.
I agree. Now, I know you are the Chief of Happiness and you're in our groups. Is there anything that you've heard from group members, maybe a question that we could really answer for them before we introduce Jay? Is there anything that you've heard regarding team transformation, staff motivation, anything like that?
Oh, I was looking already at the questions that have been asked specifically about the topic tonight. And I was already kind of making notes to make sure that we don't miss any of them because they are great questions. And
Yeah.
I know that people are wanting brownies, so I'm loving the fact that they're thinking ahead and putting those questions down so that we can make sure we're touching on them.
So, do you think that we created now the expectation that on every show we're going to be giving away brownies?
Absolutely.
I think so too. I think so too. So let us know if you're tuning in. I know we've got more viewers hopping on the line now. If you're here, feel free to say hello to us. John, I'm a manager, and Loretta will be interacting with you throughout the show and making sure that your questions are answered. And also, the really cool thing is that our guest this evening, Jay Whitney, is also a group member in our Childcare Business Success group. And if you're not yet a member of that group, I encourage you to come on over and join us. But Jay is part of that group. So the questions that we don't get answered on the show, I'm pretty certain, just judging by what he's already been doing, is that he'll be going through your comments and answering your questions for the ones that we don't get to address here on the air. But we'll do what we can in the 60 minutes that we have together. And there's one question that, I want to address that I've been hearing over and over and over from our directors and our owners. And that is about, the craziness that can transpire in the workplace. And how do we mentally deal with that? So I want to talk to you. I'm going to put a little comment here just for a few moments about craziness. Craziness. Okay, so I'm going to show that. All right, so I'm going to just talk about craziness. And Loretta, you can feel free to hop in if you want to, but I often hear that there's just craziness that unfolds, whether it's drama, negativity, gossip, crazy situations. And there's a total mindset shift that you can make. And Jonna, make sure that you're writing these things down as some golden nuggets for our folks. But there's some mindset shifts that you can make to really help you deal with the craziness that unfolds. And what I want to recommend to you this evening before we kick off with our topic is it is really critically important for you to become an observer of the craziness and not a participant in the craziness. So a lot of times we let the craziness and the situations just really suck us in. But as you develop strength in your own mindset, you could say, okay, isn't this an interesting situation? You could pull yourself back from it and really observe what's going on. And then from a logical perspective, choose and purposefully decide on how you want to react to that situation. So you don't have to be sucked into every crazy situation that unfolds in your childcare program or in your life. So that is my big tip for you this evening on craziness. And I know I hear this from a lot of our owners and directors, like, how do we deal with this crazy situation? And craziness consistently unfolds. So Loretta, do you think that will help anybody this evening?
Absolutely. And I
All
think
right.
that mind shift is critical. If you're looking at it in the term of craziness, that has a negative connotation. I've
Right.
always said I love bring on the crazy. It makes me better because I can take that and shift it around, turn it around, and turn it into something positive for the person who's experiencing, and then myself as an administrator or teacher or whatever role I'm in at that point. So I think that mind shift is so important. If you don't have the right mindset around craziness, then it really is craziness, but it's really something that can build your skills and make you better and enrich the relationship that you're working to create.
Absolutely. And so remember, and people ask, well, Julie, well, how do you become this observer of craziness as opposed to a participant in it? And if you are benefiting from this, and I'll say hello to some of you before we bring Jay on with us. But hey, Sarah, hey, Brandon, nice to have you here. But, once you're looking at the craziness, you could do things to really snap yourself out of being involved in it. So to become an observer of it, some of the things that I do is I'll clap my hands and say, okay, wait a second. I don't want to get into this, but I want to be an observer of this. And I'll purposely use the words, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Now, how do I want to deal with that? And then sometimes I'll even physically move myself to a different space. And it might just be one step over, but I want to make myself aware that, hey, you could stay here right in the same spot and get pulled into this craziness, or you can move over to a different spot and really just observe what's going on and then handle it totally differently. And once you're able to handle it differently, you're going to find that you're a lot less exhausted when it comes to the end of the day or comes to coming back the following day. And we're going to talk to you about a couple of opportunities that we have for our directors and owners out there before we wrap up the show. But we also want to remind you that we've got prizes, and we mentioned our brownies. So we are giving away brownies this evening for the most engaged person. Loretta, what do they have to do to be the most engaged for the evening?
They need to be asking questions, commenting every time Julie says, give me an oh yeah, give her an oh yeah. If we see your name, we're not going to sit there and count and put check marks beside every single one. But if your name continuously is coming up and you're engaged in what's happening, you have a very good likelihood of winning brownies. And there have been some pretty good competitions out there week to week.
That is so true. And also make sure you go into your directors groups or your owners groups and say, hey, there's the Childcare Business Success show going on. Go there and tell them to come and write your name in the comments. And that's going to count towards our interaction prize, because I think this is a hot topic and everybody should be here for this, because people are always asking, buying, selling, craziness. So really, really, really help us get the word out there, and we'll award more prizes. And we also have a weekly interaction prize, and this prize is awarded in our group. And Jonna, I know, has posted the link already, but you have the opportunity to win a video. And what we're doing, my team, and just because I love videos so much, we are going to actually just make you a video, and there's a sample that will show you, but you have up through this evening to win this last week's prize. So anybody who is most interactive and engaged in our group all last week plus through this evening is going to get that video prize. And Loretta, how have people been reacting to the video prize? Is it seeming like it's something pretty cool?
Oh, they are so excited because you're personalizing it. You're making it count for them and their business. So, I mean, what more could you ask for? Awesome.
Right. And with the video, you could totally do anything, you could use that for we're enrolling now or birthdays or whatever it is, just to be a nice little promotional video for you and your childcare program. So Loretta's going to be in the lobby, or in the comments there, interacting with
Mhm.
everybody and letting us know by the end of the show who our prize winners are. So, and then also, Loretta, I may call you back in at one time to see what the top questions are. And John and Loretta, if you can be posting some of the questions for me if I've missed anything, and then I'll be reading off the top of the comments so that we can make sure that we're getting all the hot burning questions in. Sound
Okay.
good? All right,
Absolutely.
Loretta. Thank you for being here, and
Yeah.
we'll see you back before we wrap up the show.
Sounds good.
All right, going to put you back down into the lobby. All right, if you're here, say hello. Hey, okay, let's see who's tuning in with us. Let me go ahead and hide this. So who's here? So Sarah Booten says, so cool. She's probably talking about one of the prize. Sarah, nice to see you here. All right, Amy, one of our Childcare Program of Excellence mentorship members, Amy, says, so interested in video prize. Awesome. I hope you win. And John is here. Nice to have you. Oh, Amy wants to know, when do you send brownies? See, our whole show is going to be about brownies. So we try to send the brownies out on a weekly basis. Oh, Sarah says, let's see, Julie, come to New Hampshire. Sarah, did you hear I'm coming to Massachusetts October 7th and 8th? We're going to be doing the Create My Dream Team experience on that Sunday and Monday. So I hope you heard about that. If not, we'll give you some information before the show wraps up. And I'm sure Jonna can drop that link in for you. So if you're not already registered, all right, let's see if anybody else is here. Oh, hey, Arlene. Let's see what Arlene says. Yeah, more brownie fans. So Arlene says, I like brownies. Chocolate talks. Chocolate talks. Hey, Brandon, nice to see you here. Brandon says, howdy, y'all. Oh, Sarah says, hey, Julie and Loretta. All right, good. We're getting you guys warmed up. Oh, hey, Cindy, nice to have you here. Mind maps and brain dumps. Absolutely. Two powerful tools. All right, let's see if we got anybody else. Oh, Brenda, yay, there you are. And Brenda, I'll try to kick off with one of your questions as I scroll through here. Okay, so again, if you have a burning question, make sure you're listing it in the comments. And if I don't see it, Loretta or Jonna can reiterate it for you. And I'll be looking at the comments as we progress through tonight's show. And I hope this absolutely helps you achieve greater levels of success in your life personally and professionally, because there's nothing worse than really trying to navigate the road by yourself. And that's why we created this show, so that you can have a roadmap laid out for you with guest experts, including myself, that can really help you put your plan of action into place, get your strategies lined up so that you know exactly where you're going, so that when you've got to implement, you are ready with what's going to work for you. On that note, I would like to bring up into the studio my special guest, Jay Whitney. And Jay and I had the opportunity of speaking just last week, but he's been an interactive member of our Childcare Business Success Group. Well, here, let me hide this one. And let me show Jay. Hi, Jay.
Hello. How are you?
Nice to have you here.
Good to be here.
And Jay and I spoke briefly last week, but we've been exchanging some emails on Facebook, and he's been interacting in our group. And I said, you know what? Let's just save our conversation for the time that we're on air, so that everyone can benefit from what we're talking about. Because Jay has so much information. He really wanted to dive into all the common questions that he gets. I'm like, Jay, save it. We'll talk on air. And so tonight we're going to be really informed about buying, expanding, and selling. And there are different options to consider. And Jay's going to help us navigate through some of the top questions. So Jay, let me ask you, before we get into some of the burning questions that we have, why did you get into serving the childcare industry?
Well, my background is accounting, CPA, CFO work, and I became a business broker about in '93, and about 15 years ago or 14 years ago, I was helping a buyer buy a childcare center, and we looked at several different child care centers to buy that were not listed for sale, but they wanted their own uh, database or opportunities, and not just look at the child care centers that everyone else was looking for. So that person,
My mother was calling. Hang 1 second. Sorry, I usually silence my phone. All
and
right.
but in the process of looking at ones, uh, we uh, we found another one that I had done a complete due diligence on, and after my client bought one, that other one that we looked at said, Jay, you know more about my child care center than anyone. Why don't you sell it? So I sold that one, and since then I've sold about 35 child care centers.
Oh, wow. So, what is the most rewarding thing to you about working in this industry?
Well, I guess there's several aspects. One, my clients, they have their own expertise, education. They know a lot about the child care center business, or if they're buyers and haven't been in the industry, they may know the education, but not the industry. So it's part of my thing is educating them about the business aspects of the industry, and helping the sellers that they own this child care center that have, for a number of years, but they're ready to retire. They don't know at all how much their child care center is valued. They need to retire, sell it, and have a retirement nest egg. And I, in essence, help them sell them and help them increase the value before them sell it, and help them reduce the taxes for when they sell, to let them have a larger nest egg.
That's really good because, you're helping them put that strategy together because so often we think about working in this industry and we just think about the day to day to day to day to day, making it through the stress, making it through what we got to do for the week or the month. But we really want to be looking longer term out. So what do you think is the most overlooked thing that childcare owners and directors, well, childcare owners really need to start putting at the forefront of their minds? So is there another thing that really comes up as, this is one area here that's really overlooked that we need to start paying attention to?
Well, if it has to do with, you know, yes, every childcare owner will sell their business at some time. Could be when they die it, but it could be 5 years, 10 years. Or they could get a buyer that unexpectedly says, I'm going to give you an offer. And that happens a lot. So they have to be prepared to know, by knowing the value of their child care center now, in case they do get that unexpected buyer. And they have to be working toward keeping that value up or increasing it all the time. Even if they're not going to sell for 5 years, well, they may get a buyer coming next year. So do some things to keep the value up for that potential sale.
Okay. Well, let's dive into some of the questions. And you had proposed to me a long list of questions. And I asked folks, hey, here's, some questions that we're going to be diving into. List out your most burning questions for us. I'm going to show a couple here, and you probably see these on the screen as well. This is comes from Brenda. And let's see. Brenda says, okay, I might have to put on my glasses. What does Brenda say? Should I use a local broker or a national broker to sell?
Good question. There are a lot of local buyers, local business brokers. And from the point of view of providing a local local presence, they can do that. From a national broker, you know, I know the childcare center industry enough to, and I have sold enough childcare centers that I can have opportunities to present to that potential buyer that the local broker who doesn't understand the childcare center industry may not know of. They may not know that, okay, you need to present things on how many, for each and every classroom, what's the enrollment, what's the capacity in each classroom, and how many new students can you get without adding one single teacher, because most of that additional revenue from those additional students is going to be pure profit, which from a broker side is going to potentially increase that value that buyer is going to provide.
Okay. So then if we were to summarize that answer in terms of national or local broker, what's the consensus there?
A national broker that completely understands the childcare center industry.
Okay. And that's really important, because I do talk to a lot of owners who try to sell and they're using somebody who is not familiar with childcare, and then they have a lot of struggles along the way. So at least have a conversation with somebody who does specialize in the childcare industry so they can help you navigate. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. So Susan Dunn has a question. I'm going to show this. It's a big one, small print. Okay, so planning ahead, how's a child care center valued to be sold? Annual revenue, net income. What should an owner do to make their financials look appealing to a prospective buyer? Now that's a loaded question.
Okay, that's a question I get often.
Okay.
So for a child care center, there's two components of value. There's the value of the business, and then the value of the real estate. For the business value, that is really going to be based upon how profitable the business is. And when I define, it's really adjusted profit, because it's not just the profits that is reported on the financial statements or tax returns. There is going to be add backs to that bottom line profit of the owner's salary and benefits. Yeah, I've seen it where owners take a trip to Hawaii and they visit a couple childcare centers in Hawaii, and then they expense it to the business. Well, from a tax side, that's a legitimate expense, but it's an add back from when a buyer is looking at it. And then there's owner's salary and benefits, there's interest, depreciation, and amortization. And add all those up, and that's the total adjusted profit. The childcare center businesses are usually valued on a multiple of that. Usually it's 2.5 to 3, but for childcare centers that are not doing very well, the multiple could be as low as 1 or 1.5, or for centers doing very well, it could be 4 or 4.5. What could be done? There's a couple factors as to determine where that multiple is, such as if there is poor financials, then if financials are in the shoebox, there's less reliability to those financial statements, and people will pay less for that business. If they have good financials with monthly financials, monthlies is much better than just annual financials also. Mm-hmm. That is good. There's data that can be used to increase the value. Like childcare CRM is an important one in that, often if, it could be that the owner is the salesperson, and then the director or assistant director uh, may have a high close. If they have a high closing ratios of going from the phone call to getting the parents to come in, and then a high ratio from the parents coming in to actually being enrolled, you can sell that because the owner's going to leave, but what the director and assistant director who are good at that will continue, and that's something to be sold versus the unknown of you don't have the childcare CRM, so the buyer doesn't know whether the owner is making all the sales or not.
So there's a lot to think about there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing is, if you have a staff that has been there a long time, that has value, because when
Woohoo.
staff leave, often students leave also.
Okay. Right.
By having a long-term staff, from the buyer's viewpoint, they're thinking a long-term staff means that that staff is going to stay there for me as the buyer. Therefore, I'm less likely to lose students when those staff, they're not going to leave, so I'm not going to lose students.
Right. No, and that's a great point. This is why I think everyone listening or tuning in should come on out to the Create My Dream Team experience. Just saying, October 7th and 8th in Boston.
Yeah.
Had to say that. That was a good leeway. Thank you.
And the kind of related to that is the length of time that the students are there. And this is something that a local broker doesn't even put together, where they say, okay, for the 2-year-old classroom, how many kids have been there 2 years? For the 3-year-old classroom, how many have been there 3 years, 2 years, 1 year? For the 4-year-old classroom, how many have been there, 4, 3, 2, 1? And if you have kids that have been there a long time, and you can show it for each and every age bracket, that has tremendous value versus a child care center that they may keep kids often a short time, and then that has less value because it has less revenue continuation that the buyer would expect.
Yeah, so I really love this. We talked years ago about the profit killers that your security cameras will never ever reveal to you, and one is staff retention, and then it's also parent client turnover. Are you retaining your staff and your parents for as long as you can? So when you're looking at this, Jay, and really laying it out for a potential buyer, what is the best format? Or is it just showing them that you are organized? It's on paper. Here are your staff members' names. Here's how long they've been with you. Here are all your clients. Here's how long they've been with you. Here's how long you plan to serve them for.
When I sell a center, I have about a 35-page presentation going into all that in detail.
Okay.
It's very detailed because buyers are going to put down $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, whatever, to buy a business. And the perceived risk of the unknown reduces the price that they are willing to pay.
Ooh, that's a big golden nugget. Let's repeat that one, Jay.
The unknown, the buyer's unknown, reduces the value that they will offer a center, because their perceived risk is higher because they don't know something.
That's really powerful, John. I hope we get that down as a golden nugget. So, it's really removing all of the unknowns to a potential buyer in whatever format that is, so that we're reducing the fear which is associated with the risk, right? And every buyer's, I'm sure, looking to reduce their risk and gain the maximum they can with their investment.
Yes. Another thing is, for the employees, a list of the employees, not last names. It could be just initials, whatever. But, sometimes employees are you have to list the employees and are they doing a good job? And which ones are capable of doing something more? Which teachers can become an assistant director? Which assistant directors can become the director? Because buyer's point of view, they're thinking, well, if that director leave, I may be hurting, so I'm going to reduce my price because of that. But if they know that the assistant directors very capable of assuming that director's position, that risk goes away.
Yeah, and I also think too that if we project an energy or an image where we're not fearful or we're not desperate, that we're going to attract a better buyer to us when we go to sell. And in alignment with that, I also think, and I teach a lot, everybody's probably heard me say this a lot, but I think your vision can really come into this very powerfully as well when you sell the buyer on what your vision is for that program. So if they want to adopt that and carry that forward, they can.
Yeah, and now I always tell buyers that they shouldn't make any changes within 6 to 12 months because they have to learn the business and what makes it work. They have to understand why the business is doing something before they change anything.
Right. It's really important. All right, let me scroll on up here, see what kind of questions are coming in. And remember, we've got an engagement prize going on this evening for our brownies, and Jana and Loretta are interacting with everybody in the comment section. So let's see. And if I skip you, Brenda says, thank you for answering her question. You're welcome. I hope that helped. And let's see, Susan Dunn, she says follow up. Let's see here what Susan has to say. Oh, need glasses. I don't know if you can read those comments, Jay. She says, regarding real estate, is it a drawback to being a tenant with a long-term lease rather than owning the property? So is there a disadvantage to leasing as opposed to owning?
Yes. From a buyer's viewpoint, most buyers prefer to buy the real estate also, because if they are going to buy a childcare center business and lease it for 15, 20 years, in essence, all the rent that they pay is lost money. But if they keep it for a long time, they will have built up equity in that real estate. So my guess is 90% of all buyers want to buy the real estate also. And if you just have the business and not the real estate, it reduces the number of buyers that would be interested in your property considerably.
Okay, great. Good answer, Susan. I hope that helps. Let me see what else we got going in here. Okay. We have Amy who says, thanks, Jay. And Susan says, thanks, Jay. Super helpful information. Great. And like I said, Jay is also interacting with everybody in our Childcare Business Success group. So make sure that, the conversations can continue on the group page. Here's a question from Sarah, who's one of our highly engaged members, usually at all points. Sarah, nice to see you here. How do you market a childcare center? Where do I find a buyer? Jay's like, where do I start with this question?
Well, yes. The most popular thing to list businesses on is a website called bizbuysell.com. There's other ones, but that's the most popular one. Uh, um, uh, there's going to be several different types of buyers, though. There is going to be education buyers, educational focus, sleep. That's their background. There's going to be buyers that have a child in a child care center, and they like the business, so they decide to buy the business. And then there's going to be people that are currently in the child care center industry, and they want to buy a second or third or fourth, whatever center. And then there's just others that want to buy one.
Okay.
But those are the buyers. And of course, everything is done very confidentially, because you don't want anyone to know that you're selling.
Right. That's true, because then you're going to lose people, or potentially they could become very fearful. Yep. So John listed the site for everyone, the bizbuysell.com. So Jay, as somebody who serves this industry and has been serving this industry for so long, where do you see is your critical role when it comes to helping centers buy or expand or sell? So what is that value added piece that you really bring to the table?
Well, for buying the center, if I'm representing the buyer in the transaction, or I find a center for them and I'm representing the buyer, the value added is going to be the due diligence and what is the value. Buyers don't know how to value a center. They don't know, they could overpay. And I would, there's going to be a range of what's reasonable for that, a high and low. And then, you don't want to be outside that range.
Okay.
For due diligence, there's going to be due diligence of everything that we've talked about so far. From a selling side, the buyer should look at from the due diligence side, and they should look at the financial statements, the bank statements, the credit card statements, looking at payroll reports. There's just about everything that you can think of, looking at enrollment data, food data,
Yeah.
everything because you have to, the goal is to find something that doesn't make sense, based upon what you understand. Because if it doesn't make sense, maybe the seller's hiding something.
Okay. Yeah. And when you start your relationship with our owners, when they're going to sell or buy, how do you help them navigate? Because I could see the process being like so incredibly overwhelming that it's, I'm sure you've worked with owners. It's like, oh my goodness, how are we going to get through all this? But I could see you being just a tremendous person to help them navigate through the overwhelm that you might feel. So when somebody signs on and they're working with you, do you provide them with a checklist and different things of what you need? Or is it, just you gathering information piece by piece and putting it all together for them?
Oh yeah, I gather it. I work with the seller because it does take a lot of information, and sometimes information is needed. Sometimes they don't have it. So and it would take them hours and hours and hours to put it together. So maybe let's not do that. But we still need this. Just decide what's the best way without spending too much time to put it together.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, because I always think, even when we're getting our financials in order, it's like sometimes the process can be so crazy. It's like, wait a second, I'd rather not deal with that. So I always think by having somebody who's part of your team, somebody like Jay, or with your financials, your accountant, or even a virtual accountant, it's just so helpful to get through that road because there's so many things that you have to think about when you sell or buy or expand that it could really deter your success that you could be experiencing in the process. So, all right, let's look at some more questions here. Let's see, where do we leave off here? And if you do have a burning question, feel free to shoot it through in the comments. And Jay and I will be looking at these. All right. So the next question is, how can you obtain an estimate of the equity if the property is owned?
Okay, so this question, it appears to be if for maybe refinancing the amount of equity that's required to refinance, or let me answer it both ways.
Okay. And Brandon, if you wanted to clarify this, so we're making sure that we're answering your question, feel free to do so.
Okay, so if you are looking, if both the business, if you're buying both the business and real estate, lenders require you to put in a 10% down payment as an equity down payment that is non-borrowed. The only exception to that is I know of 2 lenders that if there is a director working in the center and they're very good directors, I know of 2 lenders where the director only has to put 5% down, which is amazing.
Wow.
Generally, it is 10%.
10%.
Sometimes that's it. Sometimes the SBA lender requires the seller to provide 5% seller financing, and then the bank lends 85% of the purchase price. So but 10% is what's needed. Now, if the question is if you're refinancing a loan, the answer is generally depending on the lender, 15 to 20 to 25%. It just all depends on the lender and the type of loan. The more equity that you have in the real estate, the lower the rate that you will be able to get.
Okay. Good stuff. Brandon says, thank you, Jay. All right, awesome. Here's a question, another one from Susan, is what type of fee do sellers pay to an expert like yourself?
It's a percentage fee that is based upon the sales price of the center. There's several different ways. Sometimes I'm paid on a percentage fee, and sometimes the seller may have their own buyer, and instead of paying me a percentage fee, which is contingent upon the sale, they pay me a per hour fee to help them through that process.
Okay. So it sounds like you might start with a conversation and then see which way is best and what works best for the clients you're working with.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And then, I think about this and I think about like selling a home and the percentage that we would pay to a realtor, whether it's 3% or 5%. Is it really similar when it comes to buying a business or selling a business? The percentage? Because sometimes I'm thinking, because in my mind, with like a regular house, I'm thinking 3%, 5%, 7%. And I know it can be different by state. So I don't know if there's a way you could give us just a little bit of a rough idea in terms of what that percentage would be, if there was a range.
Okay, so, selling a business is a little bit different than
Selling, right.
uh, um, there's a lot more information. Plus, you don't want anyone to know that the business is for sale. Which, when it's selling a house, you want everyone to know.
Right, so you put a sign out, you have an open house, you tell all your friends and family, social media posts on Facebook.
Want to.
Right.
So if you're selling a business, generally the standard business broker rate is 10% of the sales price.
Okay.
Now that is for the first $1 million of sales price. For the second million, it goes down, and for the third or fourth million, it goes down even further. But most brokers will start at a 10% rate.
Okay, good. All right. Susan says good follow-up. All right. Glad you benefited from that. All right, let me see who else we have here. Just want to make sure I'm not missing. And somebody did ask on here, and I really like the question. Oh, I'll put it up from Brenda. Is what are some things that we could do, or that you do, that's part of your strategy, Jay, when it comes to selling the business without having anybody know about it? I mean, is it just a matter of the connections that you have, or how do you keep it on the down low that you're selling, but nobody's going to know about it?
Well, usually when I'm I'm introduced as a banker, insurance person, CPA, something like that. But usually the meetings with any potential buyer don't occur during the day when there are employees or staff there. They are going to happen after work or the weekends when everyone's gone.
So it's just about being really discreet with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is there any, and I might be able to add something here too, but this is one question that's coming up in my mind is there any way, or do you offer any advice to owners who are selling and maybe they feel like they've kind of checked out of their business, but they still have to maintain their motivation. They still have to be involved in the business. They still have to be excited about the vision, because in their mind now it's like they've got one foot on this side of the fence where they're selling, and then yet they still have to have their other foot on this side of the fence where they're still managing a successful business. Are there owners who struggle with that? And if so, what advice do you offer to them to say, hey, this is the path that you've got to take to make this a successful sale?
I've seen this many, many, many times where an owner checks out of the business and they become an absentee owner or a semi-absentee owner, and they have their longtime director manage the business. The director doesn't have an ownership interest in the business, and they're not looking out for every single penny like the owner is.
Mm-hmm.
So there's changes that slowly occur if the owner's not involved and doesn't keep track of it the way that they should. And then, instead of making X amount of profit, the profit, it goes down. And it's not, and then because it goes down, maybe the multiple of earnings that it's valued with also goes down. So there's a double effect. Profits down, and then the multiple goes down, so it reduces the value even more. It's if an owner is checked out of the business, they need to sell it now versus trying to have a director manage it for several years and having the potential of having their business value go down substantially.
Yeah, yeah. And this is a good one. I think I'll do a follow-up article on this. So, John, if you can make a note for me to maybe write something for everybody on maintaining your motivation during the selling process. And maybe Jay and I could put our heads together and maybe we'll co-author an article about just really keeping your motivation high during the sales process and not checking out of it. Because I could see that could easily happen where you're already done. But that's so going to impact the buyers that you're able to attract, and just keeping everybody motivated in the interim because you're still impacting so many lives with your childcare business.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Good stuff, Jay. I'm enjoying this. We're getting some good comments here. Bruce says, thanks for hosting this topic. Let me see here. Who else do we have? And remember, if there's a burning question, since you're tuning in live, we are trying to give those questions priority here on this evening show. So make sure that you're posting your questions.
One thing that I can add about increasing the value of current owner is their financing. Whether it's they're buying one or refinancing. I have a database of every single SBA loan ever issued since 1990. And I can see what are the interest rates that every single loan to a child care center was made at.
Oh, wow.
I've analyzed it and I've found out that 32% of all loans to the child care center industry in the last 6 years, and this is like 5,500 loans nationwide, were at the maximum rate of prime, which is 5% right now, prime plus 2.75% for an SBA 7A loan. An additional 13% were at prime plus 2.5% or more, and an additional 13% at prime plus 2.25% or more. So in essence, over 60% of all loans to the child care center industry are at a very high rate. 17% of all loans to the child care center industry are at prime plus less than 1.75%. So there is an opportunity for a buyer to reduce their interest by a percentage point for what they are usually paying to a fair rate, which on $1 million loan will save them about $200,000 over the life of the loan. And that's probably at a minimum. There are other products that may be a little bit lower than prime plus 7.5%.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a 6% rate. I was just recently working with a buyer that was buying an extremely profitable center with 1.8 million in revenue and 560,000 in profits. And I got him 4 offers that were all in the 5% to 5.5% interest rate, which is extremely good. And they were all fixed. 3 of them were fixed for 5 years before the interest rate would increase. And 1 of them was fixed for 10 years.
Wow.
So, and interest rates are increasing. So if you can get a fixed rate, that's good. Very good. So, by getting the right loan for $1 million loan over the life of the loan, you could save $300,000-$400,000 or more.
Fantastic. And this is the value that you provide when you come into the mix, Jay, because you have the connections, you have the information, and you save a lot of time in the process because there's so many people out there who are owners. And I'm sure you run across this, Jay, too, where it's like, I could do everything. And we have owners out there who are absolutely brilliant, and entrepreneurs are typically the masters of, we know how to do lots of things, right? From fixing the toilets to repairing the doors to hiring staff. And we think, oh, well, this is just another thing we could do ourselves. But again, it's one of those things that you start going down that road and you may not have the connections or the information to really make the best decision and to get you the best offer, the best thing that you can make happen.
Yeah, because all SBA lenders, they advertise the same way. We love to give SBA loans, and if they are asked, they'll always say, yeah, we like the child care center industry. But they may be one of those lenders that does child care center only at the highest rate. Well, if I'm going to help, I'm going to go into the database and I'm going to find the SBA lenders that historically have given loans to the child care center industry at low rates. And those are the ones that I'm going to target. And no one knows that data. No buyer knows that data. I know it because I work a lot with SBA lenders, go to their conventions, and paid $5,000 toward the database.
Well, and I still believe, and I know this is it's a hyper-connective world on social media, but I really still hold on to the belief that with relationships, everything is easier. Without them, things can become incredibly hard. So it's like you've got to be connected to the people who have connections and can really help you navigate smoothly through every situation. I think that's just so critical to being more successful in your endeavors. So we've got another question here, and Loretta and Jonna, we're just going to go for another few moments. If there are any other burning questions in the comments that I may have missed, if you could bump those up to the top for me, I'd greatly appreciate it. And we'll take a few more, but we've got one coming here from Mandy Moore, who's one of our highly engaged folks. And I'll post this, and it's a long one, so then I'll pull it back down so that we're not hidden. Let me hide our names here. So it says, Jay, our owner is wanting to sell. My husband and I are going through the process to try to buy. She is interested. She's very interested or nosy in our process and our amount of money. What is your professional opinion about sharing information with her?
Well, when I'm selling a child care center, I advertise it confidentially, and buyers have to sign confidentiality agreements and provide financial information that indicates they have the financial wherewithal to be able to buy it. You're in a situation where the owner doesn't know that you have the financial wherewithal to buy it. So that is, if someone doesn't have the financial wherewithal, that owner generally would not ever give you the financial information necessary for you to buy it. Why should she if you don't have the ability equity-wise?
Okay, cool. So Jay, we're also getting a question, and let's see here. What's the best way to contact you? Which is a really great question. Katie wants to know, hey Jay, how do we get in touch with you? Will you be leaving contact information or a way to set up a consultation? I get absorbed in QuickBooks and came in too late. Katie, we tell you, set the alarm on your cell phone. You don't want to miss one show. It's more important than QuickBooks. But anyways, Jay, how can people get in touch with you?
My website is www.childcarebrokers.com. My email address is jwhitney@childcarebrokers.com. And my telephone number is 770-410-7582. And I will post that in the comments later on.
Fantastic. Yeah. And Jay is also part of our Childcare Business Success group. So at any time, I believe you could tag him in the group too with your questions, or come back to this show broadcast and tag him in a comment or question there and say, hey, I'd like to set up a consultation with you. And he will be able to reply to you there as well. So that would be a great way. Okay, so Loretta has a question here, and that she's reposting. What is the best way to find property to relocate to in regards to owning versus leasing property with the thought of selling down the road? So what's the best way to find some property?
For if you're in lease space and you want to find space to go into, I'm not an expert in that. That's would be a local broker that would find space, because to find space, there's often a lot of changes that have to occur to get it okay for licensing.
Okay. Okay, cool. Any other questions? And one more. Jonna, was there anything that I missed? I know we had some questions that came in before we launched the live show, so I want to make sure that there's nothing that we missed there. And if you could check the business page as well as the group page, I think we had some separate questions coming in. So we'll see if there's maybe one last burning question. And then we have thanks so much for sharing your expertise. It was very helpful. So thank you, Susan. We're delighted that you're here. And I'll see if we've got maybe one more question coming in, and then we'll wrap up our segment with Jay, and we'll get to our prize winners for this evening to let you know who won the brownies and our video. I see Loretta down there in the lobby doing like little woohoos. So, all right. Brandon says, let's see, good stuff tonight. I say that iron sharpens iron. All right. You are correct. I believe, does it? I don't know, Jay. Does iron sharpen iron? we'll have to research that one. Okay. And if you missed out on the early information, please know that once this wraps up, you'll be able to click on the link and tune into the replay. And we do encourage you to share this out. So if you know somebody who's going through this process and you can benefit, please let everybody know about the show. And you can even post a link right in your directors groups if it's allowed, or anywhere else where our owners and directors might be hanging out. All right. I don't see anything else coming through from Loretta or from Jonna here. So Jay, is there anything else that you feel is, just a burning question that you want to answer before we wrap up our show? So is there something that's like, I've got to give the answer to this question? I know you gave me a whole list and we've got through just a fraction of them. So is there one that really stands out as one of the most popular things that you get asked that you'd like to share with our audience?
I get asked a lot of questions. The one thing that we didn't really cover is refinancing. And for existing owners, if they've owned the business for 3 years or more, there's generally an opportunity to refinance their loan and save substantial amount of money.
Okay, perfect. And Jonna just sent me a private message here, and let's see what she's had to say. All right. She says, here's a question. I own 2 centers and haven't separated financials. What advice can you give to separate or sell one? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you have 2 centers with financials that put the 2 centers together, that and you want to sell one of the centers but not the other, then the buyer doesn't know whether what part of the financials refer to the one center that you're selling versus the other center, and that increases the perceived risk to the buyer, which reduces the value that they're willing to pay. It would be for that. I would for this year, I would have your bookkeeper put together separate financials for this year.
Okay, so start separating those financials. Okay, fantastic. Whew, my lights just went out. What was that, Jay?
Ideally from January, but if not, then from now on.
Okay, perfect. All right. Great questions. All right, so let's see here. Amy Fish says, thanks, Julie and Jay. Susan Dunn says, thanks, Julie. Look forward to seeing you in Boston. Hey, Susan, I look forward to seeing you too. It's going to be awesome. Can't wait to rock the house. All right, Brenda says, thanks, Jay. I just bookmarked your website. All right. And let's see. Oh, Diana, everybody tuning in. Thanks, Julie and Jay. All right, fantastic. Well, Jay, I know that our conversation's not going to end here because we're going to be seeing you in the group, and then maybe we'll have you come back and do a future show on some of the other questions that we weren't able to get to, because I know this is a huge topic. So I would love for you to come back and join us again. Would you be open to that?
Oh, yes, I would.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being here tonight. And I know that the information greatly benefited everyone. And Jay, let's go ahead and give out your contact information again. So if people want to contact you, what's your website and your phone number? And please remember, Jay is in our Childcare Business Success group, so you can easily tag him in a post or a follow-up question that you have, and then everybody can benefit from that answer. So Jay, let's give out your information again, and then we're going to get to the prizes.
My website is www.childcarebrokers.com, and my telephone number is 770-410-7582.
Perfect. Jay Whitney, thank you so much. I'm so glad our paths crossed, and I'm so glad that we had the opportunity to have you on this evening's show. It's been an absolute pleasure.
I enjoyed it. I look forward to next time.
Awesome. I can't wait. And I'll see you in our Childcare Business Success group. All right. Bye, Jay. I'm going to move you back down to the lobby. And now what we're going to do is we're going to have the opportunity to hear who are our prize winners. We've got brownies and a marketing video that one of our lucky viewers and participants in our Childcare Business Success group is going to win. And if you're not part of our group yet, come on over there. And I'm going to move Loretta back up to the studio with me so she can share who our winners for this evening are. So Loretta, was this a fantastic show?
Yes. Am I live? It tells me that I'm waiting to go live.
Oh, there you are. You are live. I hear you. You are here.
That's exciting.
Absolutely. So should we do prizes, or what should we do? Let's do our brownie prize. Okay. And then I'm going to make a couple of announcements. And then we'll do our big grand prize. How does that sound?
All right.
So do we know who our brownie winner is?
Donna and I have been messaging each other. We've got a groove going.
Awesome. Okay, here we go.
All right, here we go. The winner of brownies tonight is Susan Dunn. Thank you very much for your engagement.
Susan, not only did you get a wealth of information from Jay, as I know you did, you got some of the yummiest chocolate brownies in the world that we'll be sending off to you. Awesome. And I want to let everybody know, so congratulations, Susan. And I want to let you know that if you're tuning into this, that we've got an incredible event coming up on October 7th and 8th in the Boston area, Massachusetts. It's my Create My Dream Team experience, where we're going to help you put your plan of action together for managing, motivating, and retaining great staff. If you are not yet registered for that event, Jonna will drop the link here so that you can go get yourself registered. We've got a great early bird rate. You probably missed our super early bird rate, but we still got a great early bird rate going on for a VIP ticket where you could come on out and join me for 2 incredible days as we really strategize to get your plan of action in place. And we're talking blueprints, templates, and an experience that just might possibly change your life. And Loretta, you were at the last one. The testimonials that we heard from that were just amazing,
incredible.
Weren't they?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They were incredible. Life-changing, transformational.
Yeah. So, and the directors who were in attendance said this is the best gift my owner gave to us, to come here, do this program with us, and to let us experience this. Because so often we're thrown into that leadership role and we don't know, how do we retain staff and what's it costing us if we don't? have a motivated team. So we look at those things and then really help you understand what it takes to have long-lasting, sustainable motivation in your childcare program, as opposed to just putting those Band-Aid solutions on things, because Band-Aids can get really expensive and really exhaustive to try to keep up with. So I know I'm going to be there in Boston, and Loretta's going to be there as well. And we've already got some great owners and directors who are registered. Susan is one of them. But we
Yeah,
hope you'll come.
good.
Yeah, woo. We hope you'll come out and join us. And we do have a very limited room block. So I want to make sure that you get registered early, because the order in which you register will be the order that we're releasing the hotel information. So we really want to get you in. We've got a great room rate of, I think, like $139 for Boston in the fall. So it's going to be fantastic.
I I don't know if you're a VeggieTales fan, but I cannot wait to go to Boston in the fall, and I am going to be singing that song the whole
Awesome.
time.
I'll have to look it up. I have not watched VeggieTales for like years, so
Every
it might be.
time you say Boston in the fall, I just want to burst into song.
Right, right. And the other opportunity that we have is, and if you're just really feeling like, Julie, I just need to have a conversation, you could shoot us a comment here, or you could private message me. Jana is really monitoring all of my Facebook activity. And so if you shoot me a private message, leave a comment here, we can get you on my calendar. We can have just a quick conversation to determine what your next best path is. We also have an owner's retreat that's going to be here in my home, and we're opening up the doors for this to be a totally free event for you to come here to my home and to join me for a day. And the owners who come here and spend my mentorship members' time with me walk away just transformed to a whole different level. So if you're interested in that opportunity, if you're an owner, it is an application process, but Jana can get you that information as well. And yes, Amy, Jana will be getting that information out, I think maybe tomorrow. I'm not sure, but we are in the process of setting up the room block. So for those of you who have registered or are part of our mentorship, we will be getting you that hotel information very, very soon. And we're so excited. So those are a couple of opportunities. So you can come on out to the Create My Dream Team experience. You can come here to the mentorship meeting or the mastermind meeting in my home. Well, actually, I'm not even calling it a mastermind. It's a retreat or an intensive where we're really going to deep dive into your business. And if you don't know which opportunity is best for you, shoot us a message, shoot me a message, and we'll get you on the calendar. All right, on that note, we've got one final prize that we're awarding this evening, which is our video for the most engaged person through the last week, including through tonight. And you're a part of our Childcare Business Success group. And I wish everyone luck. So I'm excited to hear who this next person is. Do you need another drum roll?
Always, yes. Here we go.
Here we go.
All right. So the winner of our video, which you get to personalize to what you need for your center. So this is just the best thing ever. You can take it and run with it. Is Cheryl Grownwood. And if I mispronounced your name, I have a name like that too, so I apologize.
Cheryl, hugs. I know Cheryl. I've been on site working privately with Cheryl's team. So congratulations, Cheryl. Now, if you did win any of our prizes tonight, I know Jana's got a prize claim form for you to fill out. So she will be in touch with you to get you that information so that we can get your prizes out to you. All right. Well, I think this is another fantastic show. And as always, I wish these could be 2-3 hours. But, we went a little bit over an hour again, but I hope you got some fantastic information. And if there's any topics you want to see us feature in the future, please feel free to leave that in the comments as well. And we'll see if we can include one of your topics in our future lineup. All right. Anything you want to say before we wrap up, Loretta?
Have a fantastic week. I can't wait to see you all next week.
Awesome. All right. And in the meantime, go tell your friends to come and tune into the Childcare Business Success Show. We're dedicated to helping you achieve greater levels of success in your life personally and professionally. And my personal mission is to help you fall madly in love with every aspect of how you manage your childcare program so that your life personally and professionally does indeed become dreamy. I'm Julie Barkus, and along with my Chief of Happiness, Loretta Chuck, right? See, I butchered her last name.
Exactly. Thank you.
We wish you a fantastic week and can't wait to see you next week. And on that note, I'll just say good night, everyone. Bye. Thanks for being here.